very 90s type of, vibes.
How are you guys? How is everyone doing?
I'm good.
Really great, great. Good to be here. I'm excited.
Me too. Wait, do you guys have any like New Year's resolution?
As far as it relates to YouTube?
Live, YouTube. Hey, everyone in the chat. Thank you guys all for being here. Live, YouTube, anything.
I'll go last. That's a long list. It's a long list.
My
Okay.
spine. Oh,
I wouldn't say I have any New Year's resolutions. I mean, there are things that I'm just kind of continuously working on. I definitely want to be more careful with my time and how it's allocated. That's something that I want to be more conscious of this year. It's been a constant thing I've been working on, though.
Patty.
my spine has healed since last year, so now I can go to the gym and work out again, and I'm gonna get big and strong. That's my New Year's.
Gotcha. I decided to be intentional about like investing in like black businesses or like be doing more black business stuff. And so I downloaded Zeus. It is the most ratchet thing I've ever seen in my life. Like there is no program on there that I can think of off the top of my head that I randomly clicked on that was good. Like I thought Love and Hip Hop was like the bottom of the bottom in terms of ratchetry, but now I have Zeus. So
What is Zeus? Is that a black app?
it is a black-owned media company of sorts that produces TV shows and all kinds of things, and I am now invested in it. So I not invested, but like watching things on there. I don't know what I'm watching.
So it's like Clubhouse with TV.
It is like Clubhouse with TV. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Yes.
I feel like it might be worse. Zeus is like, oh my god. You know what? I like that though. I think that this year I want to be more charitable, not just to others, to myself, but I also want to be a net positive. I want to. I started out my journey on YouTube with a specific goal in mind, and I've deviated, and it's kind of spilled over into my real life. And I want to get back to what I wanted to do initially, which is to be a net positive.
All right. Well, I'm very happy that we get to talk and hopefully we dig into what you feel like you're doing in the world. And hopefully it is a net positive. I'm looking forward to more content on your channel. This is random, not that random because we actually talked about it, but it's a random switching gears to after we kind of watched the Megan Thee Stallion case last year, I kind of realized that like people aren't willing to like accept the verdict. I think it's kind of interesting on like a lot of fronts. Like on the media front, there's this idea that media is biased and we are not getting the information, which I'm going to talk about, but also racism and the racist system, and they're trying to keep the black man down. And before we move forward into the new year, Tory Lanez sentencing was postponed, apparently. So I want to go backwards a little bit and talk about that. What are the reactions, you guys? What are the reactions that you guys see, and kind of how do we think about it in the new year?
I think the reactions are divided in the black community, at least. And I thought it was going to be divided by black men saying she wasn't shot, but black women saying she was. But I kind of see it more like I don't see a distinction between men and women. It's kind of just all over the place. Well, I do see more women saying she wasn't shot, but I mean, I found that interesting, at least, that women were also kind of like immediately after she was shot, and even now after the sentencing, just like a refusal to believe that it, or at the very least that he did it.
I don't like. I feel like the reaction is, I mean, it's business as usual in the Black community. I don't think this is not like a new reaction. It's not new to me, at least. You see it in familial dynamics. You see it in communities where Black women are not taken serious. Black women are not believed. Even the ways in which Black women and Black men are reared, and the contrast. Those Black boys can do no wrong, and and conversely, Black women can do everything wrong, so they have to be very cautious. It's like walking on eggshells. So, yeah, business as usual. Is it disgusting? Yeah. Do we need to do something about it? Absolutely.
So I just think it's strange. Like a lot of the commentary that I saw, like online, of people just giving their opinions and things like that. A lot of people were talking about Meg the Stallion's character, or like what kind of person they think she is, or who she dates, or whatever the case may be, as if that's any reason that someone should ever be shot. So I just, like, the things people were talking about as it relates to this, like talking about how she's a liar and she was dating this person, she was doing that. Like, I just thought it was all so strange. And then after he was convicted, people were like, no, he's not guilty. Like, they were still trying to say that. And it's also funny that some of the same people, when you actually talk about racism and like these, systemic structures and all of this stuff, the same people will be like, that's victim Olympics. But then when it comes to this, it's like, it's because he's Black. And it's like, you cannot have it both ways. That makes sense.
So what is interesting to me is like this, everyone has become an attorney, like literally everyone. And I'm going to play a video, and I want us to kind of react to this video where this man is explaining why Tory Lanez is in prison, right? It's not because he shot Meg in his mind and it was proven. Let me see if you guys catch it. Let's go there, because I'm very concerned with where we are and still are as a community.
Under pressure from the LAPD in the United States government, and he didn't show up. And he not only did he, why he got a guilty verdict. And the first is the testimony of Kelsey. Kelsey, the night of the shooting, that 60-minute plus recording during that interview is one of the biggest reasons Tory Lanez is going to be doing jail time starting next year. The second reason is witness tampering. Kelsey recanted her story. Meg and Kelsey both said that he offered him $1 million. And then Meg's bodyguard, whose livelihood is Meg Thee Stallion, he makes his money from Meg Thee Stallion. He was under pressure from the LAPD in the United States government, and he didn't show up. And not only did he not show up, he ran. That told the jury that Tory had got to both Kelsey and the bodyguard. And then finally, Tory not taking the stand. You had the eyewitness that was there. You had Meg's testimony that was there. You had the DNA being convoluted, even with Kelsey's DNA on the gun. None of that mattered. The three things that put Tory down: witness tampering, Kelsey's testimony, and not taking the stand. I'll let you boys put their.
All right. So every reason except the fact that he shot her. And it's interesting because like a lot of these people weren't in the court, right? A lot of the evidence presented in the court we're just now getting, such as the recording where Tory Lanez essentially confessed. Like he stopped short of confessing at this point. But I don't think the case itself is interesting because everyone has dissected. But I think our reaction still in January is very odd. Like even in the comments, people were like, "Free Tory, he did nothing wrong." And I'm kind of curious as to where you guys stand on this. and the whole idea about convoluted ignore that. Actually, don't even go there. Go ahead.
Like everyone becomes a specialist and a professional. I think you know what? I'm getting angry. Hold on. No, I'm just getting angry thinking about the way that Black women fight for Black men, whether they're honestly innocent or guilty. I don't think that guilt seems to be a variable in Black women's desire or their incentive to fight for Black men. And yet, when Black women are legitimately victimized or brutalized by Black men or white men, it's really sad that this tends to be the outcome. Yeah, I don't know.
First, I wanted to point out as soon as I heard the fire alarm beeping in his background, I already knew I was going to dismiss everything that this man said. And second, I want to thank the American justice system, which I've never done before as a Black man. But just because you have to actually like have a lawyering degree and all this to be a lawyer and like convict people and prosecute and such, because I would not want this man anywhere near any court case ever. But I do agree with Annalicia, though. I think it is interesting how willing Black women are to kind of jump behind Black men when it comes to, I guess, like unfair violence on Black men, usually at the hand of the police, but that same type of energy isn't reciprocated. Like even the Kay said it earlier a little bit, but I didn't think about it like this. When you look at Megan's team and Megan's defense and all the people online talking for Megan's side, it's like, oh, she got out the car, Tory shot her, and then the police came, etc. When you listen to Tory's defense, it's like, okay, so first they was at this party, right? And then Tory was pulling all the girls. He was sleeping with Kylie, but then Megan had got jealous, and then Kelsey came over here, and I'm like, why are you? This is weird, right? Because at the end of the day, somebody got shot, and you're like all the way back in their history. This is, as a Black man who I've advocated for Black men who were shot by the police before, it feels really weird for Black men to be going like far back in not far back, but back in somebody's past to see what they did to cause them to get shot or something like that. That's my perspective.
Yeah, that's very white supremacist. Like, whenever someone is getting killed by the police or whatever happens, people want to start talking about something they did that has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that they were wrongfully killed. So that's the same vibe that I get when people start talking about, someone's dating life or something like that when it comes to them being shot. Like, it has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, George Floyd's past history was like, you could not touch it, rightfully in my mind, because what happened in that moment was separate from what he had done in the past. Now, one could make the argument that what he had done, if he was locked up for it, then he wouldn't have been out there, but that's a stretch. I think there is an unwillingness to accept that we aren't, as a community, willing to protect the women around us. Like, I think that's the vibe I get. Even 50 Cent, which he apologized for his comment. Actually, I do also have that. Let's play the audio only.
I just want to say that 50 Cent is repugnant in my mind. I'm sorry, as an individual, he is absolutely repugnant. Not that this is redemption, but it's very interesting that he said that. He came out and said this. Very interesting.
Someone said Rock Nation. I think, well, let's hear it, because even in the apology, it was still problematic. But I don't know if I can play this, but I'm going to play it anyway.
I'm going to apologize to Megan Thee Stallion. I said some things, and it was because on social media I posted things that when she said she was with Gail, and she said that were you intimate with Tory Lanez? And she said, well, what? And then it was like, no. I was like, ah, she lying. At that point, I knew she's lying. It wouldn't be no reason for me to be around each other. And then from that, it felt like she was lying to me. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, little things would pop up, and I wasn't being supportive of her at that point.
You were a little more vocal.
Yeah, and the only reason why I felt like, you know, at some point you should apologize. I should apologize to her is because when I heard the phone call conversation, that made me feel like, oh shit. Now I know what happened. Yeah. I'm gonna apologize to Megan.
Oh my God.
You're muted.
That's what he did initially. The thing is, within the context of the apology, he did say something that's quite interesting. He said he knew she was lying because there wouldn't be any reason for her to be around him if they weren't sleeping together. And I find that like really confusing. Obviously they were sleeping together, but the idea that they couldn't have been around each other unless they're sleeping together is strange to me. Did anyone else find that odd, or is it just weird, like me being weird?
I think it's always weird whenever I hear and it might not be relegated to just it's worse. It's always, everything's worse with Black men. I'm gonna be honest. It's weird with Black men because everything is so sex-centered and sex-focused. It's almost like it completely takes away and devalues the situation or the person involved, the victim involved. That's weird to me. Like I would expect 50 Cent to do this. Like that makes sense. 50 Cent coming out and apologizing and being, you know, contrite, that's weird. A kind of an apology and then, you know, trivializing it a little bit and making fun a little bit. Yeah, that's his brand. That's his brand. But they're very sex focused. Everything is about sex. I don't know why. Actually, I do. I lied.
I think this. Oh, you can go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think this is the thing that guys do when they're like, girls can't have guy friends because obviously one of them is sleeping together. And at least in the way 50 Cent was speaking, I think he means that there would be no reason for Tory to be hanging around Megan Thee Stallion unless
Prince, do guys believe this as teenagers, or well, clearly, like
50's grown, he believes it.
50.
I mean, it's a lot of grown men who believe it.
I mean, Steve Harvey very overtly says this. Like Steve Harvey said, you cannot have female friends as a man unless you're sleeping with them. Like he very overtly said that.
Yeah, like the idea of a woman having ideas or just enriching friendship in the way that men are able to be human in a friendship is like a foreign concept. But yeah, it is out of character for 50 Cent to be apologizing. I've never seen him apologize for anything ever. It's probably
isn't that the problem that men are having, that because they can't cultivate and sustain meaningful relationships with men or women, and if they do with women, it's exclusively predicated on their sexual dynamic or that type of relationship. Isn't that the reason that men are, you know, they're dying? They have the highest rates of deaths of despair. They have very weak social networks. Like that's part of the reason, at least. If you only see that myopic lens, it's a problem.
I actually do feel like that's where we should go with this conversation, because Cigna did this research. It was broken down into like a small pamphlet, which we can look at on the screen in a moment and go through. And what it found is that this generation of men are the most lonely, and lonely not just in terms of interactions with women and a sexual partnership, but like lonely in terms of not having friends and not being able to connect with people. And Annalisa, are you saying you believe that the reason this is so is because of kind of the narrow focus of just, if I'm friends with you as a woman, I just want to have sex? Do you think that's part of it?
I mean, the way, if you're going to object women in that way, you only see them as sexual beings or like sexual slot machines to be used whenever, like at your leisure, and you don't feel like they have any, they're not useful or they don't have any like any meaningful contribution. Yeah, of course, you're not going to. That's not going to be a priority. Fostering and cultivating relationships with women. Why would that? Unless you're having sex. It's not a priority because it doesn't make sense. The math doesn't math.
Go ahead, Kate. Were you saying something?
No, I was gonna just kind of agree with Annalisa about that aspect of not fostering meaningful relationships with a lot of people in general, and specifically women. We've heard the talking point about men and women can't be friends and all of this, which we know is not true. But the health implications of not forming meaningful relationships are huge. And I think some people don't realize that all these, ideas that people think are quote unquote so masculine, like being, so individualistic or only looking at women, one specific way, not trying to build up a friendship with a woman, even if it does lead to a romantic partnership at some point, but just not seeing women as people to build like non-sexual relationships with is detrimental to men. Like these things that people think are so masculine are not good for men. So I don't know. I think that it's a really interesting topic because some people think the things that are helping them they think things are helping them that are actually hurting them in the long run.
So we should then just dive right into this then, and move past the Megan Thee Stallion into sort of, let's center men and the loneliness epidemic that is existing now amongst men and Hispanic and Black men specifically. And let's talk about it. I'm going to put some stat on the screen for a brief moment. We're going to go through them. And we can try to have a kind of discussion about what to do about lonely men. Because I do think there is a seeking of a male figure to look up to, a father figure that the manosphere, people like Andrew Tate, they're stepping into and exploiting. And I'll explain why I say exploiting in a moment. But so can you guys read that?
Yep.
So
I thought, Hetty, were you going to read?
Oh, you want us to read it out loud?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I thought I heard some Petty start. That's why
I did too.
No, this is a K thing. Kay is the educator. She's the literate.
Okay. Just say that you're
Look, we can all read, but do you want me to read the?
You know what we used to do in school? How about Kay will read one paragraph, I'll read another. That's how we do it in middle school. Let's do it like that, okay, Petty?
Not popcorn.
No, we're doing it.
Round robin.
Why?
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, go ahead. Look, all right, I'll read the top part. Why? Key determinants of loneliness in America: a lack of social support and infrequent, meaningful social interactions, poor physical and mental health, negative feelings about one's personal relationships, and a lack of balance in one's daily activities, doing too much or too little of any given thing, like work or sleep. Annalisa.
I'm going to do generation, okay, Betty? Loneliness across key demographics. Generation. Younger generations are lonelier than older generations. Nearly 8 in 10 Gen Zers, 79%, and 7 in 10 millennials, 71%, are lonely versus half of boomers, 50%. Annual household income. Higher income individuals are less lonely, of course, than those with lower incomes. People with incomes of $25,000 or less had a 7.2 point higher loneliness scale than those with incomes of 125 or greater, 125,000 or greater, 50.6 versus 43.3. So substantial.
And it looks like by gender, men 46.1 are lonelier than women, 45.3. Race and ethnicity, Hispanic respondents 47.7, and those who identify their race as other 47.2 are the loneliest, followed by Black African American respondents 46.3. In the communities, those living in urban 46.7 and suburban 44.7 communities are less lonely than those in rural areas 47.0.
All right. It also goes on to explain why this is important, but just as a brief summary, what is happening is men are people who are lonely, tend to obviously are isolated, mental health decline, physical health decline, employment opportunity decline, and Alicia pointed to this earlier, which is death of despair increases among the population of people who are lonely, right? And so the question is loneliness and people being lonely our problem, right? Is this our problem? Should it matter? And why?
So what I would say to that is, as I get older, I find I'm becoming much more egalitarian, and but we live in a world with people. We live in a society with people, so I believe that we have a responsibility to one another, kind of in equal measure. Obviously, more vulnerable people require more attention, but the problem with that ideology is that you have to work together, right? If you have a group of men who are intolerant or unwilling to work with the members in society who have very antisocial worldviews, it's very difficult to reach them, and it's also very difficult to access the compassion required to feel inclined to help and to feel inclined to establish a network or a safety net for all lonely people. So it's for me, I kind of vacillate between throw them away and let's facilitate some type of meaningful intervention. I go like this, literally. So I don't know. But yes, actually, partially.
Okay.
So, Patty, did you want to go first?
I was going to ask, aren't the means of intervention there? I assume since the men are lonelier, the women are taking advantage of means of intervention, maybe therapy or counseling, or making meaningful friendships with each other. So I wouldn't understand how to intervene for the man. To me, it seems like the resources are there and they're not taking advantage of it for whatever reason.
So I was going to bring that up too, because, the statistics that we just looked at are pretty close for men and women. It's not like a drastic, huge difference. But we do know that, women are more likely to express their feelings in certain ways. Women are more likely to seek therapy. Women are more likely to not, bottle all of this in a way that can become harmful for themselves and others. So when we talk about, is it our responsibility? I would say just, generally speaking, that everyone should be contributing positively to society in whatever way you can. So, people that are around you, people that you actually have an influence on, people that you interact with, if you have the capacity to do so, you should absolutely try to build that community and make it, something that you're interested in, that you try to, work against people feeling lonely and isolated, because people who start to feel like that can often become very bad for like the other people that are around them. So even if it's just for that reason, like we should be all trying to help each other. Like that's how I look at it. We should all do what we can with the people around us.
I appreciate that. We're going to get into this. Annalisa said hard to access compassion for some of these people, and I think that's interesting. But we're at the 30-minute mark, so let's read the super chats that came in. Prince Petty, do you?
Sajoje. All right. And yet, when we say toxic masculinity, they laugh. But this is what it is. It hinders everyone.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really, really good point. I don't think the quote unquote patriarchy discriminate in its terrible effect on people. Obviously, the degree changes based on gender, but it's bad for everyone involved. I actually fundamentally agree with this.
Ill Doctrine contributed in honor of Kay to recognize her divine.
Oh,
Wow. Yeah.
oh, look at you! You better have supporters out here, Kay.
Oh, so nice.
Can I also? I forgot to say something when I came in because I was like rushing. I want to thank the members of this community. The love and the just you guys are so accepting. And I, for one, I'm going to be honest, I was surprised because I'm a little bit polarizing. The four of us together, no one knows how it's going to work. But this community was so accepting, so loving, so kind and charitable. I love you guys. Thank you. Honestly, it made 2023 already.
I actually, when your avatars were posted, this is actually a real thing. I didn't respond to every comment, but I read every single comment, and everyone was so sweet for everyone. Like, I was hoping some people would drag Petty, but like no, people didn't. But no, Ill Doctrine, thank you. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you all for just being welcoming and amazing people.
We love you. We're not going to let you down. Thank you, guys. Cancer Girl.
No,
I'm already talking. Cancer Girl 92. Thank you. I'd love for y'all to react to the Vosh vid and how it applies to the Black community.
Wait. Are you saying the Vosh vid or tweet? Because the Vosh tweet and video where he's on the Young Turks is coming up as a part of this conversation. So if that's what you mean, yes, we're definitely going to react to it.
Ask and you shall receive, Cancer Girl.
Period.
CJ. CJ? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the donation. Do you think men I've never seen that word in my life.
Emphasize.
Emphasize? Okay. Overemphasize romantic relationships or sex versus other relationships and feel worse if they have one versus women. I don't understand.
Yeah, I think I understand. Correct me, CJ, if I'm wrong. I think the question is asking if they overemphasize romantic relationship or sex over other kinds of relationship. If I would say Annalicia's articulation earlier is that there is an overemphasis on sexual relationship instead of like meaningful relationship outside of sex, right? But the research on loneliness that we were going through, the full length one, and I will post it, highlights that men are isolated not just in terms of romantic partnership, but even friendship. And so there is a kind of concern, and I have a concern now where at one point I was very annoyed at the men online, still am, but I realize there is a huge sort of gap in terms of adoption and expectation. And if you are in a society where you cannot meet that which you are told to meet as a man, there is going to be a problem, like mentally, but also you're not allowed to express that in meaningful ways, and you didn't learn how to deal with your emotions and all of that. That is a recipe for disaster, right? As someone who doesn't really care about a masculinity, I didn't really think about it until very recently. I'm really starting to think about men who are like, I want to be masculine and I want to be able to uphold whatever responsibility I need in the system. And I'm not able to do it, whether I'm incapable or some systemic issue. what that does to someone's psychology, right? I understand from that, not Annalise. Yeah.
I'll wait for you to finish and then I'll tell you what my problem with that is.
Yeah, but I understand the psychology that would have an Andrew Tate and a Kevin Samuel. It's wrong. Like, this is not a justification, but I understand how a Kevin Samuels and an Andrew Tate could come in and manipulate these men, take their money, trick them, tell them what they want to hear, and then they found their father. Like, in these men, they found their father, and they find a toxic figure that can make them feel like they're vindicated against the world. But pushback. Go ahead, Annalicia.
So I was having a conversation with someone about this because my theory, and obviously it's a theory, but my theory about this particular demographic of boys and men, that they specifically had a predisposed ideology or negative feelings about women prior to finding these men, and that's a problem, right? So while I can appreciate the need for having a positive male role model, I can appreciate and understand that, and having a father or even a positive male role model in most situations is a huge determinant in terms of life outcomes. It's a huge variable. We can't ignore it. But that misogyny, the predisposition for it, the resentment towards women, some of the self-hatred, the self-loathing, they were predisposed. That was already there, right?
Yeah, but wouldn't you agree that that's a product of the society that we live in? Men in a patriarchy tend to view women a certain way. Even women view themselves. The way I'm listening to women talk about women, even Megan Thee Stallion. All right, go ahead, Annalie. You're shaking your head, and I don't want you. I want you to.
I'm shaking my head because it pisses me off. I'm not shaking my head because
Oh yeah. I am annoyed by it too. So the predisposition is. By the way, I'm not asking anyone to give grace, right? I am saying from my own understanding of how do you perform masculinity. In my mind, you just be who you are. You do as well as you can, and you help as many people as you can. So, like, I've never thought about masculinity as more important or different than femininity. Like, I don't care. Like, I can see a woman and be like, oh, she's really feminine, not really understanding why, or a man and say, oh, he's really masculine, and not really caring why. Because it didn't matter to me, can you perform the way that a good human being can perform? And that's all I cared about. But now I realize that men want to reach some kind of optimal masculinity.
right, but the thing,
the final level of
the problem that I have with that is that, like, not a problem, because everything that you're saying is right. Objectively, you are correct. But I think where men and women are going to deviate, and I am echoing.
Wait, I didn't hear that.
Am I echoing?
It was, but you're fine. You can. I didn't hear what you just said.
So, I think where men and women are going to deviate, where our paths sort of go like this, women advocated on behalf of men. We, like, literally part of the feminist movement was to humanize men and to deconstruct the unrealistic standards that masculinity and patriarchy sort of binds men into, because it's not a standard. It's not. It doesn't bring the quality of life that human beings need. Right? It's not attainable. And even from an emotionally and psychological standpoint, it's detrimental. And part of feminism was advocating for that and fighting for that. And the idea that men have now are turning around and feminism seems to be number one on their docket list or on their hit list. That's where women are kind of like, okay, well, so this is a problem that you constructed, that you created, that we tried to help, and to our own detriment, because.
Can you concede Oh my God, I'm gonna get dragged in the chat. I'm gonna get dragged. It's fine. It's fine. I'll be the bad guy. Can you concede that a lot of these men do not have the language to articulate the issues that they face? So, what I mean by that is, it's easy to scapegoat feminism. A lot of these men who don't like feminism benefit from feminism. Like, it is almost a guarantee that most men who are saying 50-50 online are also saying they don't want feminism. Well, girl, we're not about to have that conversation with you. But I think language escapes a lot of these men. And again, this is not asking for sympathy or grace. I'm just saying these people don't know how to talk. And I heard Kimberly from For Harriet say this, and I actually agree. A lot of them might be on a spectrum. A lot of these men might be divergent. Like a lot of these men might not be fully adopted in this world, right? Like even the people that I talk to, they'll have like outbursts, and then their voice will get really high, and they'll start focusing on narrow topics, unable to see broader issues. And I don't know if
that's not an illness. Okay, being remedial is not technically an illness, and I can appreciate that. And I do agree that there are a lot of Black men who are more than likely fall somewhere on the spectrum. But at the same time, there's a disproportionate amount of Black men who simply refuse to engage with the subject matter, who simply refuse to engage with anything that sort of is antithetical to their own belief system. And
you say refuse, and I don't know if they're able.
I think that confronting, so when I say refuse, confronting the reality of your situation as a human being, as an individual in a society in which you've been disenfranchised, and it is difficult. It's very difficult to actually step back and look at who you are as a person and to introspect. I think that introspection is probably just as big a problem. I don't think that these men have the capacity to introspect and look within. I think that they have an external locus of control, and that kind of blinds them from really being able to see themselves in the world in any kind of realistic manner. But I think that they refuse. It's cognitive dissonance, right? It's there's a fable, and it's Aesop, and so I guess was it grapes or apples? He was trying to get a fruit, and the fruit was at the top of the tree. He couldn't get it, so he convinced himself, oh, I don't want the fruit anyway. It looks like it's rotten. It's just cognitive dissonance. I don't think that they want to confront themselves or the patriarchy. It's too much.
All right, but go ahead, Kay. No, go ahead.
You know, I think that the issue, you know, like Themis was saying earlier, it's a societal thing, right? Like there are these expectations of what it means to be a man or a woman or whatever, like these traditional views that people have about people based on their gender. But, you know, as, you know, technology becomes more and more a part of people's everyday, every hour, every minute lives, people have more access to come together in these groups where everyone thinks the same thing. So like Annalicia, you were talking about people not like having the ability to introspect. I don't necessarily think that it's people don't have the ability to introspect. I think it's more so that people purposefully put themselves into rooms or podcast viewing situations or whatever the case may be, where they are being affirmed, like the things that they think are just being validated, regardless of how incorrect they are. So it's just like, you know, there's a market for it now. Like the way I always think of it, like the way the beauty industry does with women. There is a market about being a quote unquote alpha male or being this type of man or being quote unquote masculine. Like, people are making money off of this. So they'll tell you anything that you want to hear as long as you keep on paying them to do so. And I think that sometimes a lot of people in these spaces are so easily able to see it when it's happening to women. All these ads, okay, now I want to get these eyelashes, or I want to get this makeup, or I want to do this surgery or whatever. They can see it when it's women, but it's the same exact thing when it's men, and people are getting paid to feed into men's insecurities or things that men think other people don't care about. They just want somebody to listen to their issues. But all the while, like,
so
That kind of
the
content,
ability.
though.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So my thing is, the ability to introspect means, well, you guys know what it means, but if you have that capacity, right? If you're able to look at yourself and understand where you went wrong in a situation or in life, in a relationship, how you negatively or positively contribute to a situation. Really introspective people are not engaging in these rooms. They're not engaging with these men because they understand, or they have a better way to balance out sort of societal issues and the issues that they are also contributing to the degradation of a community, to the degradation of a relationship. They have that bandwidth. People who are void of introspection, it's much more, these men are appealing for people who don't have the ability to say, maybe there's something going on with me, and maybe the world around me is comes secondary to that.
Yeah, but I don't disagree with you, Annalise. I think I agree, and it is also harder to introspect when you are dead wrong. You know what I mean? Like, when you are the primary cause for a lot of issues, it's easy to introspect when you're like, oh, maybe I did this wrong, I should figure it out. But when you introspect and your life is a mess and other people you have damage, I think it's difficult.
Listen, I didn't say that it was easy. Introspection is an extremely difficult emotional, psychological process, but it's imperative to your emotional and psychological development.
Yeah,
it's how
agreed.
Right, but I never said that it was easy. That's not the point. The point is not that it's supposed to be easy. The point is that you're supposed to engage with it. The point is you're supposed to confront yourself in some way. That's the point.
But when people don't have the tools to do that, how do they engage in that kind of work? Because a lot of people just maybe go do something off themselves, or trigger warning, I apologize, that just kind of came out. And I don't know that a lot of us are equipped to deal with the kind of shadow that we might see when we start the introspective work. And I'm not saying we shouldn't, like, I fully agree with you, but I think a lot of us are ill-equipped to do it. A lot of us have never done it. A lot of Black men, if we want to like categorize and talk specifically about them, have never been told, you are wrong, and we are not about to let you gaslight. A lot of us have been coddled our entire life. Not me. If I made a B, my mom would be pissed. So I think a lot of people kind of fumble through life with everyone else around them, trying to coddle them and telling them the system is out to get them. I think in that reality, there is a level of maladaption. Like, I don't say this as a means to justify bad behavior. I will always hold people who engage in bad behavior culpable, liable, whatever you want to say. I will do that. But I also, in watching a lot of people trying to theorize about this, accepting that there are men who want to achieve masculinity, which I think is the dumbest thing in the world, is actually kind of like, me even saying it's dumb means that I am exempt from whatever performance that requires. So for the people who are not exempt from that kind of performance, I think it's easy to listen to a Kevin Samuels, because like you said, you don't have to introspect anymore. You start blaming women, right? Andrew Tate is going to yell and women are property in his mind. Now you feel better about yourself. Obviously, this is ridiculous and toxic, but it's easier than actually doing the work that well, maybe you haven't met the standard. You haven't grown where you need to grow yet. And so I'm trying to figure out these men because life is going to get a lot worse for a lot more people if these people continue to exist in the way that they do. Like they're not going to go down without a fight, and they're going down, right? Like they're all going down. Like the government is watching. Like all these theories about the incels and the manospheres are coming out, and if their ideas are going out and people are like falling to those ideas, I'm actually quite fearful, not for myself, but for womankind. Like if women are property and that sticks in their mind, what do you think they're going to do to women?
But that's where women are, and that's why women are reluctant to just step into that arena, and rightfully so, right?
Yeah.
How do women, in a meaningful and productive way, how do we contribute to? How can we help if we're also at risk? If we're also vulnerable? If we're also experiencing the same things? Like introspection is hard for all human beings as a species. It is extremely difficult. And it's not to say that we're relegating this to men, but this conversation, I understand it is, we're centering it, and it should be. But I just feel like it's difficult for men, but it's also going to be difficult for women. It might be something that women are not equipped to deal with in the same manner that men are not able to, are equipped to deal with their shortcomings in equal measure. It's difficult.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm with you. Okay, we didn't finish reading the super chats. Let's do that and then get back to the discussion.
Don't be mad at me. I love you guys.
Oh, I think people are agreeing. I think they're mad at me. I think they're mad at me, but no one is mad. Actually, I think everyone is very good in the chat. Go ahead, Petty. You've been silent.
Deacon North said, "It goes beyond loneliness into anger and a sense of entitlement based upon masculinity. Lonely is one thing. Their view of what is rightfully theirs is where it gets dangerous to women in society."
Agreed. I think that's what Annalicia was saying. Kiki has been a member for 3 months. Thank you, Kiki. Yeah, no, I think that's what Annalicia is saying, and I agree. And I don't want it to get lost somewhere in translation that I think women should be actively involved in lifting up men. Like, no.
I don't think that you're saying that, and I also don't want people to think that I am not compassionate. I know I said earlier, sometimes I struggle to find the compassion. That's a human thing, but I recognize that this is a problem, and I want men to do well. I want human beings to do well. We live in a better society when we're doing well. So I don't want men to think that I'm not sympathetic or I don't have empathy. But you have to approach this with a very realistic and critical lens. It's not just, it's difficult.
I like you said critical, because we're going to talk about winning and losing in a minute. And I think hopefully not in that very crass way that I just said it. Thank you, Diva.
Curry Up and Eat says, "Men, choose better women. You picked Tate and Kitten." I don't think I'll get that right.
What? All right. So is there an award for like best chat member? Because Curry Up and Eat has been eating like literally every stream. She just comes and just drags in the absolute best ways possible. Thank you, Curry Up and Eat.
And she's consistent too. You have to love it. She is consistent and she's the GOAT. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. Keep it La La Land. I appreciate that. Someone said, "I got you, Annalise. I understand your point of view." Yeah,
Gia Homid, Themis, feminism is saving the small men. It is. The short king.
It literally is. Imagine without feminism, women won't work and now men have to provide all of it. Like without feminism, a lot of men would not even have an opportunity to date. It is what it is. is what it is.
Not the undesirables.
Team is trying to make sense of Fresh and Fit was triggering because it's just a front for multi-level marketing scheme. I'm definitely not trying to make sense of Fresh and Fit. That ship has sailed. If there were any, what's his name? I don't even know. The ugly.
The ugly. Listen.
No. I was thinking out loud. The fresh one, not the fit one. I realize that he's just there as decoration at this point.
Well, who wants to look at the decorations are aesthetically pleasing? Well, I don't want to feel sick if I'm looking at we talking about decorations.
All right, let's get back to the conversation. Hard to access compassion for lonely men. All right, these men are getting scammed, right? And we know they're getting, actually, one thing about Andrew Tate that I do like is he's going to tell on himself. If there's one thing Andrew Tate is going to do, is he's going to tell on himself. So let's watch Andrew Tate.
Andrew Tate brings telling on yourself to a new level. This is a new level of telling on yourself, and I love it. Do it more.
Me too. Wait. So, all right. So Andrew Tate has Hustlers University. Prior to this, I think he has a web cam girl thing going on too. But listen to the way in which he talks about how he makes money and how he takes from people. And we're gonna get back to these lonely men who need fathers discussion. So here, let's hear what Andrew Tate said.
Men fall in love with women online, send all the women their money, they give all the women to me. I made a lot of money off vices, the vices of the week. Men fall in love with women online, send all the women their money, they give all the women to me. Sorry, wait, yeah, that's true. I do have all the women, but I also have all the money. So it's a very simple, it's a diagram. Let me draw you a diagram because it results in me being a G. Let me draw something for you. So basically, this is me at the top, Tate, being the man. Below me are chicks. You can see I drew some titties and a very pretty smile. And below the chicks are men that coincidentally look a lot like you guys, otherwise known as geeks. And what the geeks would do, so here's the diagram. You have me at the top, Tate's amazing things right. You have me at the top, you have the chicks below. This is one chick, but there can be many. And then you have the geeks. And what would happen is the geeks sent their money to the chick, and the chick gave her money to me. Because I'm the top of the motherfucking food chain. So the geeks gave their money to the chick, and the chick gave her money to me. And this is all based on a hierarchy. Basically because I'm an unquantifiable force of nature. Because I'm such a brilliant individual. Because I'm such a masterful human. I don't have the weaknesses that other people have. So the geeks were weak for the chick, so gave the chick money. And the chicks were weak for this dick, so gave me money. Because I'm a motherfucking G. PIMP. I took these hoes from ghetto streets to hotel suites. I told them if a men think you're handsome, they need to pay your ransom. And they paid it, and they gave it all to me. So that's basically what happened. So I made a lot of money off vices. I made a lot of money in the webcam business. Anyone who's interested in running a webcam company, that's a very good idea. The reason it's a very good idea is this. We live in a world that's becoming more and more digital. The world is digital now. Everything happens online. You buy your food shopping online, you meet friends online, you do Tinder dates online, everything's online. And a lot of these guys have their girlfriends online. And a lot of these guys are rich tech dorks. They're not broke. They're rich and they're sending all their money to their internet girlfriends. So if you have one internet girlfriend who gives you all the money, if you have one girl sitting there who's the girlfriend of all these losers who gives you all the money, you're gonna be rich. As one of the strongest men in the world, I make money from the vices of weaker men. And that's how I made money with webcam. And someone said, we should get into the gambling. Of weaker men, and that's how I made money with webcam. It gives you all the money, you're gonna be rich. As one of the strongest men in the world, I make money from the vices of weaker men, and that's how I made money with webcam. And someone said, well, you should get into the gambling industry because all these gambling addicts ruin their lives giving their money away. And I thought that's a good idea. But getting into the gambling industry is obviously very, very difficult for the average human. But I'm a bad boy, I'm a G. So I made some calls, I got some friends, whatever, managed to franchise casinos, including the gambling license, give my soldiers a chance to get rich. So I like to make money off the vices of the weak. Because look at the diagram. There's me.
I like to make money on the vices of the weak. Think about that for a moment. One of the major vices I see in a capitalistic Western society is this quick money scheme, right? Everyone wants to make money quickly. It is my position that in the same way that he uses women to take money from men, he's using these hustler university to take money from men. The weaker people he's talking to are the men. Now, obviously, he's going to, well, he's being investigated and he's currently in jail under an investigation for trafficking. Not going to say fully all of that because of YouTube policies, but his target people aren't women. Men are who he's going after. And he's not going after them, in my opinion, to help. He is going after them because he understands their vices and he's using that to capitalize on. Like, this is kind of like strange to me that he is like admitting, I make my money from exploiting y'all's weaknesses. And people are like, oh, he's teaching me how to drop ship. Sir, how are you going to drop ship and do affiliate marketing without an audience? Sorry. Anyone can take it. I'm going to go after him for 2 seconds.
You know, the thing about that we just watched is he's directly saying what he was doing to the quote unquote weaker men. But people will be watching that, like some other men who think they aren't the weak ones will watch that and be like, yeah, not realizing the same exact thing is happening to them at that very moment when they are also contributing to his success, looking for something. The same way those quote unquote weaker men were looking for attention from the women or whatever. The other group is now looking for attention from him, like looking for advice or whatever you want to call it from him or inspiration from him. So it's like the same thing is being done to these two different quote unquote groups. And both of the groups just seem to be completely oblivious about the fact that it's happening to them. Like the group, they might be like, oh, I would never pay to see women, online that, I'm just talking to them. I would never pay, but I will tune in every week to this podcast and make sure that this man is successful. Like it's the exact same thing.
Wait, what was it? $50 a month. Men are there are over 100,000 men signed up for his Hustlers University, paying like $50 a month, right? Like, think about that. At what point do you realize this is not working? Drop shipping is not new, and it's ridiculous. I was talking to one of my financial advisor. I don't have many. I only have one. I say one off because one of them became my friend, and I found a new one. Anyway, and we were talking about the idea of like drop shipping. I don't do online stuff like that. Drop shipping and affiliate marketing and all of that foolishness. And he was like, there is no way, like when drop shipping started and you can create your storefront and people come on, everyone wanted the first couple people who did it, right? Now there are more storefronts than there are customers, right? Like, and y'all are all selling the exact same thing. So unless you already have a built-in audience, that is not a great way to make money. Sure, affiliate marketing can work, but again, you need an audience pre-made. The hustle in Hustlers University is the program itself.
What I love it because you have the Fresh and the Fit who are so closely aligned and affiliated with Andrew Tate. It's basically they're the same thing. Let's put it like that, more or less. And their whole racket, their whole thing is, women want men who are high value, who have money. Women are hypergamous. But you have their leader, their king, who they put knee pads on for, who made his wealth from women exclusively. He came up off of women. This is but their message simultaneously is that well, women want a man who is high value, who is a high earner, earning from women. You're getting your money because of women, and you think that makes you a high earner? You think that's what women want? You think that that's okay? Like it's like the hypocrisies never end. They never end. Like it's like a piece of Swiss cheese. There's so many holes in the lies and the arguments and their talking points. Like I don't want to get angry.
You're on mute, I think.
You're mute.
That is a huge contradiction. Gwen, wish your discount whiteboard, right, Natalie? Thank you. If you think women only want to date successful men, the idea that to make money you can have a girlfriend and then use her to make money doesn't make sense, because she wouldn't be with you if you didn't have money already, right? So yes, point taken, Annalisa. Like, that literally makes absolutely no sense.
I have a couple of things just on that video you showed. First of all, my grandpa used to tell me that where there's a sucker, somebody's gonna get a lick, and Andrew Tate took that to heart, apparently. Secondly, that was a sorry excuse for a whiteboard that he held up. Thirdly, did this man actually come on camera and say, hey guys, I'm going to explain my business with this diagram, and literally draw a pyramid, and then look at how egotistical he is with it, as if like he just came up with the next big thing. He's like, look guys, I have this plan. The money funnels from the men at the bottom to me at the top. I call it the upside down triangle scheme, right? And it's funny how explicitly he says, I'm taking advantage of you loser men, to his audience. And the men, they're like Ray Charles or somebody. They can't see anything. But the moment a girl is like, hey, are you paying for the date tonight? Those same men launch into this philosophizing about how all women are out to take our money. And I don't know, this feels like what irony is to me.
It doesn't feel like irony to you, Prince Freddie. Does it feel like irony?
It actually does feel a little bit like irony to me.
And now that's why we're getting deeper and deeper and deeper into that pool of like that. It's like a pool. Compassion's at the bottom, and it's getting deeper and deeper and harder and harder to have that. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, you have these men who are really engaging in this, but we're also supposed to have compassion. It's just hard.
I think compassion is too strong a word. And I don't give this advice to women. I give it to men. So I don't know if I told you this, but a couple of my friends were very pro-Black. I think they still are, but they've been watching my channel and they've come around to the understanding that Black women are actually treated poorly in the community, and pro-Black a lot of the times mean pro-Black men, excluding Black women, right? And so they've come to this, and now they're like, oh, I don't care about Black men. I'm just gonna go 100 on protect Black women. All my posts is gonna be about Black women. I'm going to only care about Black women. And like, I love that. But then I was thinking about, we were talking, and I was like, we do, however, have a responsibility, right? Like, I decided not to put this front on my YouTube, but I feel like the podcast is different. I mean, it's still being hosted, so I'm gonna do it here. I am afraid that if men start withdrawing from the other men, they will only go further down the rabbit hole of the manosphere or whatever toxicity is out there. Because the truth is, they do need something to latch onto. And it's harder to latch onto the thing that is saying be accountable. It's easier to say, oh, the women are the problem. And I'm trying to figure, it won't be me. I know it won't be me because I just don't have the gentle touch required to the men, and then being aggressive to women. Like, it's just not me. But I do wonder if there will be anyone who will come along to like actually whip men into shape and say, look, do better. And I'm kind of worried about that.
I think the path of least resistance, which is what we're essentially talking about when we're talking about it's not me, it's the world, it's women. There are consequences when you make the decision to go down the path of least resistance, because life doesn't work that way. Life just doesn't work that way. So, I mean, I think I agree with everything that you're saying. I just don't know how women could do, and I don't know what women would do, and if they did something, I don't know how they could.
I mean, how do you tell?
How can you reach a group of men who don't respect you, who don't see you as human, who don't value you, your intellect? Again,
you don't.
They see, yeah. So
you don't. I think it's gonna be left to man. The thing is, we talked about this before, the pain of discipline versus the pain of regret. Like, you pick your poison, right? The pain of regret is the path of least resistance initially, it seems, right? Because you do what you want, whatever, don't reflect, all of that, and then you end up at 55 with a heart failure by yourself or with a random woman that you don't know, right? In a random room somewhere. And you either figure out your life and work through it now and have that kind of discipline, but that's a lot of resistance. Like, you don't just get up one day and do that. So how do we get people to want to do that? I don't know the answer, but I do know that left to their own devices, we are going to crumble even further than we are now. And so the question ultimately is, how do we win? And to win, we need men to be accountable. The women conversation is already happening online. So how do we get men to be accountable? I don't know. I actually don't know. But I do know we can't ignore it. Like, 5.5 hours didn't just come out of nowhere, right? So we don't get to just ignore it. And women don't get to ignore it either. I would hope you protect yourself separately. But when you're actually getting offed by men, you also don't get to ignore it.
So this is just an anecdote that I think relates to this, but one of my woman friends told me about her nephew having girlfriend troubles, and she reached out to help, and his immediate reaction was like, why should I take your advice? You're in your 30s. You don't have a man. Why would I listen to a woman? And like, this is a young man. I think he was like 16 or something like that. So, I mean, to Annalicia's point, how can you, I think I understand, not really, it's hard to have empathy for something like that. It's like trying to take something out of your dog's mouth and they're just like biting down and hurting you and hurting themselves. And you're like, no, I'm trying to help you. Like, it's frustrating and it's kind of difficult. But I do agree with you that I think it's a male problem that men should fix. That would be where I would start with solution, even though you say you don't have the patience for it or whatever. If there are good men who go back to the communities of, I guess, degeneracy, because we've talked about this before, the Black community is in the state it's in. Black men are in the state they're in. They're doing what they're doing, saying what they're saying, and acting how they're acting. Would you rather this go unchecked, or would you rather some men, good men with some sense, would go back to the community and try to stifle this, at least in the young generation? I don't know how much you can change old men. And that would be my solution. My question would be, do you think it's fair for, I mean, I think about someone like Nipsey Hussle, who was trying to give back to his community in a good way. I don't know much about him outside of him being a rapper and going back to his hood to like funnel money into it. And the hood responded how the hood does and took his life. Is it fair to ask a man to go back to that community and invest in it when it could be as deadly as it is for women, it looks like?
We have to, because if we don't, I wouldn't say women, right? I think this is a man problem. We have to. If you're saying we don't, you're not saying it in this way, but what you are saying is save yourself, Black man. You're not saying that, but that's exactly what you're saying. If you're saying that we cannot go back to our communities because it's too dangerous for us as men, you are essentially saying we need to save ourselves.
I don't want to conflate empathy. I think that everybody on this panel has empathy, and mostly everybody in the chat. You can have empathy from sort of an arm's length, right? You can have empathy for people while simultaneously recognizing that being too close to a situation or employing empathy in a very interpersonal and intimate way is detrimental to you, right? But as a whole, you can have empathy. I don't want people to go through pain. I don't. Like, it's I don't want people. I want everyone to be happy, whatever their version of happiness is, so long as there's no harm involved. To be honest, like, be happy, do what you need to do, and I have empathy for the human condition and anyone experiencing pain on any level, but I can recognize when a group or a person's behavior is not just detrimental to themselves, detrimental to a community, to a larger, broader society, and more importantly, to women and children. And I can also recognize the importance of creating that emotional and psychological space. That's all I'm saying.
I think that barrier. No, I agree with you. What are your thoughts on the role that religion plays in the pathology of how masculinity is defined? If we're talking about Black men, they're not religious. They're only religious so far as they can tell women to be submissive. Like that. Look, that's my opinion. I've seen too much hypocrisy in religion. People turn real religious about like abortion. They turn real religious about like random things, but they're not religious about premarital sex. They're not religious. Like I don't have. I think they're lying. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. Conditionally, Christian light, maybe like Great Value Christian.
Christian.
An a la carte, we call it. Right?
Oh yeah,
Somebody said something in the chat, and I thought it was interesting, and I thought that it was also extremely.
Thank you, India.
Black men, I think men, generally speaking, are performance focused. So in a patriarchy and in a society where performance is overvalued or it is hyper valued, especially with men, I think that Black men are more likely to listen to white men in this particular. And I'm not saying this to be disrespectful. I'm saying that this is just another problem. This is just another element and another layer that.
Wait. So you're saying white men need to come in to clean up the Black community?
No, I'm saying that this is another layer that needs to be considered if you want to help Black men, because Black men don't trust other Black men, number one. Black men are looking to align themselves with white patriarchy so that they can have a seat at the club, at the boys' club, right? They want a seat at the table, and they're willing to do it to their own detriment. They're willing to hurt women, to hurt children. They want to be seen as men, not to women, Black women, but to the patriarchy. They want to be a part of the patriarchy. They want the false promise of whatever they believe the patriarchy provides. And so I'm saying that that's another problem, right? That how do we navigate that? How do we navigate Black men who obviously lean into white supremacy, who obviously they believe these things? Black women too, but we'll save that for another day.
Yeah, all right. So I think there is a collective of people who are looking for a father figure. I do think they might find it in a white man, i.e. Andrew Tate, because literally I did it separately, but I was talking about Andrew Tate and I was about to say this is not Black men's problems, but then a bunch of Black men just came on and decided it was their problem, and they do look up to him and listen to him. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. My bad. It is y'all's problem now too. But even Kevin Samuels, right? And what I'm trying to get at is the rise of these kinds of people, I think is emblematic of a lack of stable masculine, not even masculine in the most overt sense, but figure for men to look up to. And they're not about to look up to women. They're not about to look up to a fruitcake. So I don't think that comes without exploitation. You know what I mean? Like, I think these men are going to be exploited. And because of what Kay said earlier about the market that exists for this kind of content online, the people who are creating these content aren't about to try to fix it because that would dry up the market. So there isn't a financial incentive to tell these men that women are the problem. They will never get better. Their only kind of way to deal with this is to come buy this course or buy that course or buy this suit, buy that suit. And in getting that, you won't get over it because you still need me, but like it'll make you feel better. And we'll have these podcasts where we just drag women so that you feel better and cathartic, and then rinse and repeat.
See, okay, so I'm thinking of it like a bell curve, right? You know, one end is very problematic, maybe harmful, you know, in whatever way. And then the other end, you know, it's like what can happen, you know, trying to do the work, whatever the case may be, you know, for the betterment of society. So, but then there are all these people in the middle that are kind of just apathetic, like just going through life, doing regular day-to-day things, not necessarily online in the He-Man Woman Haters Club, but also not like fighting against that either. And I think that's where the focus really needs to be from the men who do know better and are trying to do better. Kind of getting those people that, you know, are just kind of going through doing regular day-to-day things that everyone does, but not really thinking about this deeply as it relates to like patriarchy or like relationships between men and women or these toxic online spaces. Because there just needs to be more people who are actively like fighting against the problematic things that are happening. Because like you said, Themis, the group of people that are doing these things or having these talking points, you know, it's growing. There's a market for it. People are feeding into it. And if we don't want to, you know, have grace for people that are being harmful, you know, I understand that. But the people in the middle that aren't really doing anything harmful, but they're just not really doing anything. Like, I think that's where a lot of the focus should be in terms
Isn't
of
that itself harmful?
why.
Isn't silence in the face of
Oh, yes. I thought you were saying something else. Yeah, that's definitely harmful. I was like, what? Why? That's definitely harmful. But I think there's more hope to get those people to see more clearly than people who are already extremely indoctrinated with certain ideologies. They might be too far. I don't want to say, they just might be, you know, people that not so much time should be spent on as it relates to that topic.
I don't want to burst anyone's bubble, but my bubble was burst because prior to my online presence, this didn't exist in my real world. This did not, the red pill, the manosphere, like none of it existed in my real world. But out of curiosity, as time went on, because I have a lot of, not a lot, but I have several good guy friends, Black men who I've known since some middle school, some high school. And out of curiosity, because I never had a problem with them, and these things have never come up. And I would ask them questions. I would keep poking and ask the right questions. And when you get down to it, they believe these things as well. They do. They may not be radicalized in the way that some of these problematic Black men are, but they believe. They as sort of as core tenets, they absolutely believe in most of the manosphere talking points, the detrimental the ones and the ones that people might think as more benign. So this comes as a shock to me as someone who, again, is told that Canada is like a foreign, is foreign to all of to this plight. It's not. Black men, they believe this. I promise. I was shocked and disgusted, but again, these are my friends, and you know, they're not going to play with me. What they do in their life, that's one thing. They're not going to play with me. But yeah. So
do you
But
think
there's an echo. Do you guys hear an echo?
I hear a little bit, yeah.
All right, go ahead.
And Alicia, so in like a patriarchal society, I think generally there are, thoughts that are pervasive, whether it be men, women, any gender. Like there are just certain things that are common thoughts that people have, whether they admit them or not. I don't necessarily think that it's race. It's dependent on race, though.
No. Not. This is a male. This is a male. One of my therapists said to me that most men are misogynistic. She said that as a fact. I've had a man say that to me, and I've had a woman say that to me. And there's a lot of things at play, but it's not. Yeah, I agree. It's not relegated to Black men. This is a male thing. But my point is, you might think that there are men who are kind of straddling the fence, or they're in the middle, or they're not. But if you really ask them the questions, and you really ask them how they feel, 8 times out of 10, they will align themselves with the manosphere. Sometimes they do it and they don't know that a manosphere exists, right? But yeah, it's real.
See, but there has to be a solution to the problem. Like, I agree with what Themis was saying earlier about the fact that men have to address this issue. So, like, it has to happen in some type of way. And I just think that you would get a bigger bang for your buck, if you will, by talking to the men who aren't, like you said earlier, Annalicia, like radicalized, because because what else is there to do? Like, something has to happen, or it's just going to get worse and worse, like Themis was saying.
It's going to get worse. I mean, that's an inevitability, because, I mean, again, this is a male constructed, male sort of problem.
So it's like you're saying it's like self-sustaining. It's just going to keep on.
I'm saying, right. But to that extent, you're gonna need men to lead the cavalry for this specific plight, and men, most men are not willing. They're not willing to lead the cavalry, because that requires confronting patriarchy. It requires confronting your shortcomings and your failures as a human being. It requires so much critical self-analysis that I don't see that happening. I don't.
So can I pose a question as far as solution and men providing the solution? So we've established that the boys won't listen to the women because they don't respect women. Like, I guess the phenomenon where a woman will say something and it'll go in a man's ear and out the other, but then a man repeats the same thing and he's able to hear it and internalize it. So,
oh wait, before you continue, my Friday video on the regular channel is literally that. Go ahead.
Okay. But the man says the same thing. He's able to hear it and internalize it. So I think we're all in agreement that the message at the very least has to come from a man. But I think, to Annalicia, to her point, even when it comes from a man, it feels like they'll cast you out if they don't like what you're saying. At least in my experience, they'll call you a simp, white knight. They'll immediately dismiss your opinion and say you're blue-pilled or whatever. I don't know all the pills, but so it feels like even
they need to take some pills, some actual pills.
Yeah, I agree. They need to be a therapist or multiple. It feels like even the men trying to instill a good message into younger men can't do anything, like Annalicia said, without the other party doing their part, right? I can't help you if you don't help yourself. And I mean, to your credit, Themis, you were talking to the men, the orange pills, the stand the mans, for like over a year or something like that, right? And as recently as a few weeks ago, maybe a week ago, Stan is out here saying, I listen to Andrew Tate. He's cool. I like your message. After he's been here having these, what I think are nuanced discussions where you're giving him a lot of grace and trying to grow him in some way for more than a year. And here he is. So it's like, how much work can you put into it? To me, it feels like they don't want the help. like Annalicia said, it seems like it's internal. Kevin Samuels tries to give them advice to the men for months with nothing. As soon as he adds in the misogyny into his message, he blows up. So to me, it feels like even as a man, if you invest into the men, they won't take it unless you add in the toxicity into it. So, I mean, what can you do?
If you don't tell them what they want to hear, you're like, you don't exist in their world. Is that's the problem? And that's what happens with people who are devoid, again, of introspection and critical thought. Like, I'm sorry.
Because that is true, but the part of it is that people want their worlds to be validated. Again, I can't validate it because I don't believe it's real, but your experience is your experience. And I do think a lot of men have had bad experiences with I shouldn't even say women, young girls, because these people be talking about how when I was in high school, middle school, this girl stole my lunch. Like, I don't know. They've been holding on to that for years and they keep it with them. So their experience is real, right? And they want that validated. And a lot of men, and I think this has to do with media and hip hop specifically, but these IG baddies, right? They feel they deserve these women. Because let's be honest, most of these men saying, "Oh, no women want me," are lying. They're saying the women I want do not want me. Right?
Exactly.
And so the entitlement to certain kinds of women have them wanting to be validated in seeing these women be brought down a peg, right? In walks Fashion Fit. And so validating that kind of experience is wrong, but without that validation, you don't get the hope to talk to these men, in my mind, right? And so it's wrong. It's crude, and I don't know how to circumvent that requirement. Like, I don't know how we get from you have an issue, we need to solve that issue, and here's how we're going to do it. I don't know how to do that because you want the toxicity. You want to be validated in your experience. You want these women to be shamed. You want to feel important. And I don't quite know how we address men in a way that they can receive without the toxicity part. Because a lot of men came in here today talking about Andrew Tate saved them, and Andrew Tate only told them to work out. Yeah, and he did a lot of things, but maybe some people are actually going to work out because Andrew Tate said it. But he also said a lot of other things. So is it even worth having an Andrew Tate around when there's so much toxicity if he's going to help people go to the gym? Absolutely not. You know, like, whether or not these men should be able to influence large groups of people is an easy no. Whether or not we do away with and ignore large groups of people because they have not introspected in a meaningful way or at all, is a harder question. And then an even harder question is, what do we do about it? What do men do about it because we're getting offed? And what do women do about it because they're not about to listen to women? Like,
so listen, I agree with everything that you said. But the end. And so what I think is that we all want to feel valid. We want our worldviews and our realities to be validated. We want to feel resonated with. That's the human in us, right? And the further you get away from that, the further you get away from people resonating with you and vice versa, the further you get away from that, the humanity in you. Because who can you identify with, right? Who do you see yourself in, and who sees themselves in you? But part of growing up, part of being in a society, is understanding the importance of having your worldviews and your experiences understood and validated. But you also know that people around you have different experiences, and people around you have different worldviews that are equally valid, that are equally important, that are sometimes sometimes they're completely different from yours. That's a part of being like a human being. Like I would think that yes, have your reality, have your worldviews, your experiences, have them validated, but also as a person understand that you live in a world with people who have completely different experiences, and you have to be able to validate that, maybe not the experience, but that fact that yes, we come from different walks of life, but at the end of the day, it's the same thing. I'm not saying that because they can't introspect, and that is my position. Because they can't, we should just throw them away. I'm saying because they can't, and because that is such an important element for a human being. What do we do? Not just women. What would men do? Right? Like that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that just throw them away because they can't introspect. Maybe we have to look at this from a mental health perspective, which I love to do that. But again, that kind of means that Black men have to find a way to popularize mental health, find a way to make finding a therapist cool. Because I think that through the work of the help of a therapist and really doing the hard work with the therapist, you can learn to introspect even later on in life, depending on your personality type. But maybe that's a starting point, mental health, pushing that.
It seems like it has to be marketed in a way. And the unfortunate part about that is usually someone who really cares about like people getting, and wait, let me not say that because it might not be fully true. A lot of times people who really care about certain things are not going to try to capitalize or like exploit people in order to make those points or get people to understand. But it's almost like in this day and age with like, the internet being how it is and the way people communicate, that it almost has to be like that in order to get like large groups of people following along with something. Like Annalicia said, like it would have to be trendy or it would have to be something that people saw in a positive light on a larger scale. So I don't know how that can happen. That's why I'm so, I'm always saying, we have to work within our own communities of people that are around us. Like that's the most you can really do. And then just be the best person that you can, out in the world. But in terms of large groups, I think it has to be marketed, but I don't know how that would work.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. We passed 30 minutes. Let's read the super chat. I think there's 3 of them here.
Can we just point out how it's 700 people watching, but not 700 likes? I have a problem with that. I need the likes to be up. Like, I'm sorry. I'm just like anal about the likes. It's just something. It's just a me thing. I'm sorry.
Not a me thing. I should do a poll again.
Curry Up and Eat said, I wish they would just buy the standard suit. Had it not been for that damn pearly girl, Hafez would be the leader. He would have. Once again,
oh my God.
A white woman has assassinated the character of a Black man who could have led the community.
So no, I'm not going to talk about pearly things because there is nothing good I have to say, so I'm not gonna say it. There is just nothing there. Like, thank you, Curry Up and Eat. There is nothing there.
Curry Up and Eat says, we established that they have no locus of control.
No. So no external or internal. It's just no locus of control. Curry Up and Eat.
Cheeky Banter says, a lot of people have arrested development. Both the females that have mistreated the men and the men that have experienced the mistreatment.
Wait, what? Wait, wait, read that again because maybe I misunderstood.
A lot of people have arrested development, both the females that have mistreated the men and the men that have experienced the mistreatment.
Wait, this is not. So it just seems like only women were doing the bad thing here. Am I
No,
missing?
not women. He said females and men, not women.
Period. So the
Noted.
females. Period. Noted. Got it. Understood. Completely understood the comment now. Makes
See,
more sense.
and this makes me not want to have any of the sympathy that I have for men. It just like withers out of my body whenever they
Yeah,
talk
like
or
so every time I try to like do something like this where I'm like trying to like figure out a way to reach, they just come and just say no, we don't want to do it. Like like I understand what you're saying, Petty. It's the same thing when I was talking about Tate and I didn't want to talk about black men and they just came and centered themselves and I was like, no, please don't do that.
LTG Stan says, all we need is Andrew Tate. Therapy doesn't work. All that works is hard work. You won't be depressed if you make your life amazing. Top G in all caps. Yeah, that definitely sounds like the solution for these
Yeah,
lonely, depressed men. Just work hard and forego therapy. And yeah, sounds like good advice to me.
y'all, are y'all gonna be flying to Romania to go see him in person? Because I'm very confused. Send one more to super chat, LTG Stan. Please explain. Make your super chat $50 and up, and explain like what. Wait, LGT Stan, are you signed up for Hustlers University? How are you an Andrew Tate fan and not signed up for Hustlers University? Please tell me you're signed up for Hustlers University and do so in a super chat because if Andrew Tate is teaching you how to make money in in his Hustlers University, then you should be able to send a super chat for $100 and explain yourself. Like that's what I'm expecting. Go ahead.
Gia Homage says, the men have turned their backs on all institutions, church, marriage, and government, but have built nothing to replace them. Manosphere is a first rough draft.
I like that. That's true. That's true. And before I left, sorry, Kay said something so funny. And to me, it sounded like, you know, when you kind of have to trick your kids into doing something that they don't want to do, but it's good for them. That, and I'm not saying this to this is not comedic reprieve. Maybe that's the approach we take with black men, like generally, like, you know, how, like it's like is it the Pavlov experience, like what he did to get the dogs to salivate. Like, do you kind of have to trick black men to do what you want, maybe, or something that's good for them? Yeah.
See, but I don't think it's like specifically black men. I think just in general, people sometimes have to be marketed to in a certain way if you're looking for a certain result. And then that's problematic because, like I was saying earlier, a lot of the people who would want those positive results are not trying to hustle people. They're not trying to do that, like come to my Patreon or whatever, I don't know, to pay for this advice. So like the appeal of, ooh, I'm getting some secret knowledge isn't there for a lot of people. And so maybe they're not.
Yeah,
interested.
you need to hire a Masters of Shadows
Mm-hmm.
to come teach you a course about. No one got that reference. I know y'all on here got it, but like
we got it.
Look,
oh wow, didn't realize y'all would take offense. My bad, people. No disrespect intended.
Female versus man thing.
Yeah.
What did he say?
No,
what did I miss?
nothing at all. Not a thing. Super chat rain time, period, Tam. I appreciate that. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Tam.
I'm still waiting on LTG to send his.
Yeah, like where's LTG? Like LTG, I saw him responding in the comments, but I'm not about to read a comment when you're supposed to be top G.
I'm sorry, LTG, is that the abbreviation for lower tier God? And you're admitting to the world that you are a stan of a YouTuber, a degenerate YouTuber? Are you out of your mind? Slap yourself. Don't come up here saying anything.
He's out of fun.
Oh, what? Lower tier.
But is that what it means, low tier God?
Yeah, what does the LTG stand for?
I was like, is this some terminology I don't know about? That was just
I realized whenever it's in this mode and I put up a chat on the screen, Petty is blanked. Thank you. All right. So the last thing is this, and it's too much, so I'm just going to play a small part of it. It's still a part of the conversation regarding lonely men. Whatever. I like where we're going, but the men in the chat they're not making it easy for me in my arguments up here. They literally showed up and decided to make Annalicia ride tonight. So, period. Let's continue.
There were some statistics by healthcare company Cigna indicating that men are the loneliest generation. In fact, 18 to 24-year-olds are lacking friends, intimate partners. They're feeling increasingly alienated from society. And when you look at statistics in regard to their education, whether or not they're working, more and more of this data reinforces that there is something awry. And addressing it doesn't mean that you turn your back on issues pertaining to women, but it does mean that we should be focused on what it is in society that is leading to this epidemic, what the left can do to offer.
She's not. She actually, I'm not going to play all of this, but she apologizes for her response initially. Anywho.
For solutions and how we can basically fight back against the more nefarious figures who have filled the void that men are struggling with, people like Jordan Peterson and what have you. Now, recently, Vosh, who's a popular streamer, had tweeted this thread that I think is really, really important to address. He writes, "I cannot stress enough how important it is to understand that 12-year-old white boys on Twitch are not being pulled into fascism because of some Machiavellian desire to preserve and expand their privileges. It's because the right talks to them and the left doesn't." He continues to argue that leftists and progressives have absolutely no idea how unnecessarily repellent they come off to so many people, and they get angry at the idea of being a more effective social movement because they don't want to share their social spaces with people who might have gone another way. But the criticism for leftists continue, and to be honest, I agree with a lot of what Vosh says here. He says leftists will write master's theses on the effect of socioeconomic conditions on crime, and then shrug when 10 million more young men fall into fascism because their boy brains must just be innately fascist and they choose to be evil, and there's no way this could have been prevented. And then the final tweet, because I want to make sure you guys get a full look at what he's thinking here. This is always a good topic to feel smug over because the replies and quote tweets are saturated with people who literally think, quote, "we should care about men's problems and offer them advice" is a dog whistle for "we should build a Fourth Reich," thus proving the problem. Now, joining us today to talk about this is the man behind the Twitter thread, Vosh. And I want to thank you, Vosh, for taking some time to talk to us about this today.
Oh, it's an absolute delight. Don't mind the cam, by the way.
A lot because, and.
All right. So the critique goes on, and they pointed out that black men, he was talking about white men, but black men are ahead of white men in terms of numbers when it comes to loneliness and the issues, even though they're talking about specifically incels. So we can broaden the conversation or limit it, whatever you guys want to do, up to you. But I do find it fascinating, though, that there is, I think we actually have to separate them, because the work done around Blackness is very specifically about how do we help the Black community, and the Black community need help. So it's actually very well researched. And so it feels like things that are happening in the Black community are just now catching up with the rest of the community, the rest of America. What I mean by that is when feminism came about for white women, and white women were getting employed and now able to make decisions about their lives or whatever, things are changing in the white community. But Black women have always been working, right? Like there isn't a point in American history where Black women weren't engaged in the labor market. So the Black community have been contending with a society where women can do for themselves and men or man now white women are out in the labor force doing for themselves, and white men are trying to figure out how to negotiate in this new world where women don't need them. I think it's kind of fascinating though when we think about the Black man online unwillingness to acknowledge that, okay, maybe education, job, and marriage is important, right? I find that because literally part of this goes to say, how do we get more white men to school? And so the conversation in the white community is, how do we push white men to school? How do we increase whatever we do? How do we negotiate better terms for relationship where we men aren't just the provider, but like we figure out how to live and relate to each other? How do we get that kind of conversation to happen online among men, Black men specifically?
First of all, I think it's good that it's now a white people problem. Maybe now we will get like results, because I mean, you said this has been a Black community problem for like decades now. So now that, I mean, I look at how the maybe the crack epidemic in the Black community was treated compared to the heroin epidemic in the white community, and how now it's like a disease and we need to find ways to treat and aid, and what can we do about it. So at the very least, I'm going to be watching conversation like this so I can know what I can bring back to my community.
Do you think we can renegotiate power? Because in a heterosexual relationship, even though this has never happened in the Black community, for some reason, everyone thinks their grandfather was providing for their grandmother and the grandmother was staying at home. Like, everyone thinks that still. And I don't know where they get this from, but it's a thing. How do we, one, disabuse them of that notion? And do you think we can renegotiate power?
I think knowledge first is power. Knowledge is king. If you present someone with research, as I say this, I think about all the men who you've literally done this to this year, and it just goes nowhere. But I strongly believe if you present research to some people who are misinformed, because I believe that's what it is, misinformation. If you honestly believe the Black community was ever in this,
Wait,
like,
how do you hold those two, what I believe, conflicting ideas? You just pointed out that, like, we've literally been on here talking over and over and over to these men and presenting research, and then we get Stan. How do you hold? Are those conflicting to you?
look, for every stand, there's gonna be, for every 10 stands, there's gonna be one person who moves over from the manosphere and says, "Hey, ever since watching this content, my eyes have been open, and yeah, I think we can, even though it's going to be like small at first, I believe you'll reach one, they'll reach a second person, and it'll be slow, but kind of like a snowball of progress." So, I mean, I don't think that's contradictory. There are going to be both stands and other people who do tag along for the message.
Wait,
Hopefully,
so would you advise to continue to talk to men?
I would if you're a man. You said you don't have the patience, which sound to me like save yourself, Black man. But
I never said I don't have the
He did?
patience.
You see what he did?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. That is a good one.
Why did you wait until the end to get spicy? Come on, bring it next time.
Trying to end on it so y'all can't come back.
I mean, to be fair, we have 6 minutes. Let's read the super chat and try to kind of wrap it up. But I appreciate your perspective, and that's something that I might actually have to reflect on about, do I engage with men? Do I re-engage with men on here?
Curry Up and Eat says, I think to fix it, we have to properly explain 50-50 to men. These men don't understand math at all. Yeah, I agree with that. Like,
I mean,
You see, like she's the one.
Curry Up and Eat been coming with some bangers
She's the
every
one.
single day.
Stop.
they really do. All right, go ahead, Annalicia and Kay. Should we re-engage with men on this channel? And also, well, go ahead now.
No.
compound
Also,
questions.
I want everything. Also,
No, I'm not going to do a compound question because then you guys get to sneak out of whatever you don't want to answer.
I would too. So I'm gonna hold my own feet to the fire right now, and I'm gonna say that as an individual, I'm probably not helping. I might be making things worse just in terms of the way that I engage when I do converse with these men. So for myself, I think that if I do choose to push forward, and if I do choose to invest in this plight in any capacity whatsoever, I'm going to be much more mindful of the effect that I might have. And I'm also going to be much more mindful of the fact that I'm a huge proponent of be the change you want to see in the world. I know it's corny, and I know it's cliche, but I think that it can be done incrementally. And I think that there's like small things that we can do to be, nicer, better, more charitable human beings. And I need to be charitable. Like, Lord knows that I need to be more charitable. And when I'm dealing with Black men in these YouTube spaces that I'm conversing with them, I want to lobotomize myself. But I think that for myself, I'm going to hold myself accountable, and I'm just going to, I'm going to make a decision, and whatever decision I make, I'm going to be intentional about the way I engage. Okay? It's important. I want men to be happy. I want them to do well, because then women and children can do well. So I'm going to have to get back to you, but ultimately, there are things that I need to work on to be more effective, regardless of what I choose to do.
I appreciate that. Go ahead, Kay.
So, I think, like Annalicia was saying, we should be the best people that we can be, and do what we can in those areas as it relates to communicating with people that may be problematic. But in terms of like this particular space, I think we should just continue having conversations that are important, not necessarily like trying to convert anyone into any type of thought or whatever, but just kind of having the conversation. Maybe, the people that need to hear it will hear it, or maybe a thought will be sparked in someone and they can do their own work and figure out, what's going on. I think that just having a variety of spaces is really important, because I think people can get caught up, in the algorithm and then become like in these spaces that are oversaturated with things that are problematic. So, I just think more people need to talk about a wider variety of thoughts as it relates to certain topics.
Yeah. In goals, they said, this was great, Themis. Keep up the good work. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
A fellow Nigerian.
Wait, you're Nigerian?
My dad's Nigerian.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
To be honest, I don't think it would be a vast majority of men. You be open-minded for your channel, just based on what I've seen, fam. Y'all be safe. There's a lot that have been. They come over and they watch. My channel has been threefold in terms of the increase in men who are like ghost watching. They are now afraid to come up, actually. So maybe you are correct on that. They're very afraid to come up now. Thema Synthol, I'm looking forward to the replay. Oh, thank you, Eden. I appreciate you for coming. All right, we're at the 2-hour mark. Any final words? I actually had a ton of fun.
Me too.
Yeah, I did. Thank you, all of you, and thank you to the chat. Any final words?
I wanted to shout out I think the 2 women who sent like $50 super chats. I think if anything, LTG needs to be over here taking financial lessons, because I didn't see anything like that from him during this live stream. So hopefully he finds a home here. Actually, I take that back. Please don't. Yeah, that's all I have. Thanks for having me.
What do you mean having you?
Right, like what?
Like, this community has abandonment issues. What are you trying to say?
Right.
Who, me? What am I trying to say to
Yeah,
LTG?
you said thanks for having me. Like, next week you won't be back.
Right.
I have to get used to.
Wait, who is going to be the one leading next week?
Oh, I think
Did you feel stressed out, Themis? Did you feel?
I
was so nervous. I'm like, how is this gonna work?
Me too.
How
Yeah.
are we gonna vibe? We did such a good job, and it's only gonna get better from here. I'm gonna get a camera. I'm gonna get a microphone. It's just gonna get better from here. It's up.
I'm stuck. I don't know if that's what that means, so I'm not going to say it. I shouldn't have. Thank you all. I really do appreciate you guys, and we will see you guys next Wednesday. Well, you guys will see me Friday, but all of us will be back next Wednesday. All right.
We love you.
Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.
You guys can stay on. Oh.
What? She got super fast. Oh my goodness.
We were ready.
She said, bye.
Like, okay, we're done. Bye. Period.
I thought we were gonna be backstage for a second, maybe. Like,
yeah, no, definitely that was definitely Wait.
I'm gonna text her because what?
Yeah, no, actually, I need to go into the YouTube. Like we're still live. I'm gonna go into the YouTube studio because I need to check something. Oh my God, this is ridiculous. Anywho, thank you all so much. And I'm going to end this now. I just really needed to get into the YouTube control room studio thing while we were live. No, it's not for children. All right, bye.